Do you ever see that? When you're visiting with family or friends or those you work with, they're talking about something that really irritates them. And the more they talk, the more revved up they get. They just get themselves worked up into a real dither about it. And sometimes, even when you try to soothe them, their dither gets more and more and more and more and more. Hitting it head on is often not the path of least resistance. And what we're wanting to help you to feel is it doesn't matter whether you hit it head on, whether you sneak in the back door, whether you change the subject altogether, whether you go to a movie, whether you meditate, whether you do a virtual reality, we'll talk about here today. It does not matter what approach you take, because many of them work for different reasons at different times. But what really, really matters is, have I chosen for me right now the path of least resistance? That's like having a farm, having crops that you want to irrigate, and having water upstream. It is logical that you would create a channel to get the water from the reservoir to your crops. A very easy thing to imagine. But what if your farm is uphill from the reservoir? And you say, well, the path of least resistance is different than just digging a channel. But it is possible I could pump the water up. But you're not going to pump the water up until you've got the mechanism in place to pump the water up. And so what we're getting at here with you is that there are many, many ways to go about getting into the path of least resistance. So as you make a decision that you want this water to be upstream, you can set out to make that happen. And there are many things that you do in order to get from where you are to where you want to be. And so what we are getting at is sometimes you can approach your subject of desire very deliberately without causing great resistance within you. And we've noticed that as you become more and more adept at being deliberate creators, that it is great fun to think your way into the successes that you want. We know that you like making decisions and watching the universe comply and knowing the part that you are playing in the creation of all of this. We know that you are active participants in the creation of your life experiences, and you like it that way. And we are not for a moment implying that you should not be fully active. But what we are saying is, if you are so active that you are causing yourself negative emotion, then another approach is necessary. And if you will always keep rumbling in the background, this remembering that you must be in the place of allowing what you are asking for, and that you are always reaching for the path of least resistance or the path of most allowance, and that path always feels the best, then you can talk your way in to well-being. So, why does medicine work for some and not for others? Because they have a desire for wellness and a belief in the physician or in the substance, and the belief in that substance is their path of least resistance. They don't believe in their own body resources, maybe necessarily, but they do believe in this little pill. And we say, nothing wrong with that. They have found for them the path of least resistance. Why does a surgery work for one and not for another? Because for one, there is no resistance. For the other, there is resistance. So could anyone say to you, the pill is right or the pill is wrong, or the surgery is right or the surgery is wrong? Or would you reply to them, it may be the path of least resistance for me? You cannot really know that. Only I can know the appropriateness of how this feels. And if it feels soft and easy, if it feels joyful to me, then there is no resistance within me, and this thought that I have chosen, that I have wisely chosen by paying attention to the way I feel, is serving me extremely well. So the books that are written that say, this is the diet, or this is the path, or this is the religion, or this is the politics, or this is the way of life, those books that are written that imply that all other ways are wrong, have found their path of least resistance, and it's hard for them to believe that their path of least resistance is not yours. But they do not know that, because they cannot know your background. They cannot know your intent as you came forth into this physical experience. They cannot know the way life has touched you. They cannot know the way you feel. They do not know your path of least resistance. Only you do. You were born with a guidance system to let you know how to be in this place of allowing. Not just eventually how to be there, not just sometimes how to be there, but in every single moment of your conscious awake awareness to know whether you are right now allowing the fullness of the source energy that is flowing to you and through you or not. What a miraculous, glorious guidance that you have within you. What's it telling you? It's telling you about your relationship with your source. You are extensions of source energy. And as you are out here on this leading edge of thought, this powerful now where you stand is the junction where the inner you, the non-physical you, the spirit of you, the source of you, the God of you, the soul of you, the source of you meets the flesh of you, the mind of you, the perspective of you, the ego of you, the personality of you. So as you meet you right here and now, you're having an emotional response to that meeting. And if you feel elated, you're you. If you feel invigorated, you're you. If you feel imbalanced, if you feel clear-minded, if you feel alive, on fire with life, you're you. But if you feel angry, you're not you. In this now, you have chosen thoughts that are a path of great resistance, and you are not letting who you are flow through you. So what's that got to do with you being the creator of your experience? What has this moment where you meet you got to do with the house you want, or the car you want, or the dollars you want, or the mate you want, or the love you want, or the project completion that you want? When you are using this moment, this powerful moment, this moment where all of your power is, to deliberately choose a path of least resistance, choosing it by reaching for thought that feels good, now you are allowing all that you consider to be good that you have set forth before you came into this physical body, and that you have set forth in every moment since you've been in this physical body. In other words, in every moment that you are experiencing this contrast, you are emanating personal preferences. What a setup this is. Every consciousness, even if it is the cellular consciousness within your body, the one-celled amoeba in the ocean, every consciousness asks, and every consciousness is answered, which means no one can deprive you of what you're asking for. There is no limitation to the source that supplies. There is only the personal disallowing of what the personal has requested. Isn't that good to know? If I want it, I'm heard, and I'm being answered. And if I'm not living it, it's only because I haven't let it in, because I haven't yet found my path of least resistance relative to that. Chances are what happened is, in the process of deciphering the contrast and giving birth to my preference or to my desire, I developed patterns of resistance in that very asking process. I got so used to asking my mother for what I wanted, and I believed I had to really make a good case. So I explained to her all of the reasons that I really, really needed it, and I amplified my suffering to extremes so that she would give up the goods. Never realizing that while she was eking them out to me because she just got tired of listening to me, I was, for the most part, developing patterns of resistance that were not going to serve me with anyone except my mother, and not even with her very well. So, we think you're hearing us really clearly. We're speaking to you very clearly. That step one is step one, and step three is step three, and you can't help doing step one because contrast helps you to prefer. But if you will put most of your emphasis upon step three, which is finding for me right now the path of least resistance. So how does that play out? So I'm remembering a friend who makes me nuts. And I feel frustration even thinking about that friend. The path of least resistance is find some positive aspects about that friend. Well, I can't right now. I've got the other two revved up. Then change the subject. That's the path of least resistance. But this friend is in my life. I can't keep changing the subject. This friend lives in my house, or I see this friend every day. This friend is at work. This friend is a big part of my life experience. I cannot keep changing the subject. Then you must work harder at finding the path of least resistance. Work a little harder on finding positive aspects. In other words, if it keeps coming up and changing the subjects is not an option, then you've got to do something else about it. You have to find the path of least resistance. Well, the path of least resistance for me, Abraham, would be getting rid of that friend. Or moving myself to a place where that friend is not. And we say, that may very well be the path of least resistance, but there is a very high probability that when you get over there, you're going to forget about continuing to take the path of least resistance, and you're going to then want to explain why you took the path of least resistance. So you'll begin justifying why you went that way by talking about how bad that was, which means you just brought your resistance right along with you. So if you are going to go someplace else, if you will continually reach for the path of least resistance, it is possible for you to walk away from something not wanted, and it is possible for you with diligence to find a path of least resistance, a path of more allowance, a path of more allowance, a path of more allowance, until in time that friend and the way you felt will become a non-issue, and when that happens, you will stop attracting from everybody you know the characteristics of that which you were trying to get away from. This is really good, isn't it? As you start focusing moment by moment, what is my path of least resistance? So your mate is wanting to have an argument with you, really wanting to stir things up, and you are just looking for positive aspects. And your mate says, what is wrong with you? You keep changing the subject. And you say, I'm looking for the path of least resistance. I'm looking for the way that I can allow myself to thrive and be clear and have life force and have health and have clarity and have abundance. I'm looking for the way to allow all that I want to flow. And your arguing mate might say, well, choose another time for that. And you say, there are other times much easier, but I am trying to choose all times to be my path of least resistance. I am trying to let this junction where me meets me, where who I really am meets who I be today. I'm working to find thoughts, words, actions, past, present, future, that allow me to be wide open to the full receiving of me. How good is that? We are eager to talk with you about anything that is important to you. Together we will discover some paths of least resistance. You notice, if you've been listening to us at all, that we are not really keen on beating the drum of despair that has helped you launch your desire. We are more wanting to point you toward what we've entitled this workshop, which is the art of allowing. The art of allowing by discovering the path of least resistance. So, we're eager to talk with you about anything that is important to you. And together, we will help you release resistance, which is the only thing that is standing between you and the fulfillment of anything that you want. We also want to remind you that it's circular reasoning that we're wanting to bring you around to, because the fulfilling of anything that you want is because you want to feel good. So, as we show you how to reach for the path of least resistance, which feels good right now, you've already won, because you already have what you want that outcome for anyway. That reasoning is annoying to humans, we know. Because what that sounds like is, so just get happy, and then not having all that stuff you want won't bother you anymore. And while that is partly true, we are not trying to dissuade you from the receiving of all of those things that you want. Instead, it is our knowing that when you get happy now, and when you get very good at choosing this art of allowing or this path of least resistance, that all things that you've been asking for, in combinations beyond your wildest dreams, will begin to flow comfortably into your experience. There is no reason that any of you are ever without anything that you desire ever, because you live in a universe that has the ability to fulfill your every dream. There is no reason for any of you to be living anything that you are not utterly enjoying, because there is nothing that you must endure along this path of delicious creating. You are creators here molding the energy. And so let's get to it.